Local legends.
And tonight on our Local Legends series, we've got Chris Flavel, a name that is very synonymous around the bowls community, but we're lucky enough to have him tonight. We had Wayne Jackson, the CEO of the AFL, last week, and we've got an Olympic medalist tonight. A Commonwealth Game medalist, tonight. Welcome, Chris.
Welcome aboard, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, we'll start from the beginning. How did you get into the sport of lawn bowls?
I was brainwashed as a child. Both sets of grandparents and father played, so as a little tacker, I had no option but to go down the bowls club and watch Dad play and the grandparents play, and then got sick of watching at some point, so thought I'll take it up at the age of 10. That's
a pretty young age to be starting on the green, but though in those days, but today that's pretty much the norm, isn't it?
Today, yeah, like you see a lot of kids getting around, and normally the better you are, the younger you are. So, when I started, it was a bit of an odd choice, and definitely got a fair few jibes at school for it. But I think it's
paid off.
It's paid off in the end, yeah.
Absolutely. What club did you start at, mate?
Port Pirie Bowling Club, so it's 200 bit hours north of Adelaide, so out in the sticks, out in the bush.
Yep. And obviously, first game was with Dad or not, or the grandparents?
I think it would have been the grandfather, yeah. Dad wouldn't have been playing Div 7 at that point. He still would have been playing top divisions.
Yep.
It took me a little bit to get to play with him, but yeah, definitely played my first game with grandfather.
Oh, fantastic. And just to let our listeners know that don't know a whole lot about lawn bowls, what was your starting position in the team, mate?
On the mat, leader, mate.
Yep. Most players in bowls most players have to start at the lead position, don't they?
Yeah, you got to blood yourself, earn the respect at the front. You got to prove you can roll something straight before you can roll something that bends, I suppose.
That's a pretty good way of putting it, mate. How long were you at Port Pirie for? Port Pirie Bowling Club?
Probably a grand total of 15 years. I moved down to Adelaide until I was in my mid-20s for work, so yeah, I was fairly loyal.
Oh, fantastic. And which club did you end up at down here in Adelaide, mate?
So joined Lockleys when I moved down here, and currently still there, but I had a bit of a holiday at Payneham in between, so yeah.
Fantastic. Mate, the last couple of years have been some boom years for yourself. Just explain to the listeners what's been going on for yourself personally as far as the Jackaroos or Para-Jackaroos squad.
Yeah, obviously got the whole build-up to obviously 2022 Birmingham, so I've been lucky enough to be part of the Para-Jackaroo setup since 2016, 2017. Missed out on 2018 Gold Coast, but was still in the system. So,
Chris, so what's the bit there of qualifying in that regard, with disability-wise, or I don't mean to be rude. Hopefully, it doesn't come across like that. So, so what qualifies, and are there different gradings and that sort of thing for probably people out there like myself who aren't experts in that regard, mate?
Yeah, it's not rude at all, mate. It's probably easy if someone asks us into making assumptions. But so in the para space, you have visually impaired and physically disabled. So I'm part of the physically disabled group. Yep. And we have a bit of a grading system, a bit like you would have like in other para sports, like wheelchair basketball, para soccer. The list goes on. And normally that's a range of things, whether it's limb impairment, limb loss, or if you've got a congenitive condition or a genetic one like I do. There's a few bench tests that you have to go through to assess your range of impairment, and then you get classified into a few groups ranging from, in bowls it starts at B8, which is your least impaired, all the way down to B5 in the physical, which would be mostly wheelchair bound, like quadriplegics. Yep. And then you go to blind, which starts at B4 and then goes down to B1, which is basically total blackout blind.
And is there much debating over the gradings and that side of thing? And can that be controversial? Can it be a person try and get graded in a different grade than what they should be? And
obviously it does cause debate even amongst the athletes a little bit
that's what I
because
was trying to phrase. Yes.
like obviously there's a lot of tests that you have to go through, and you have to prove medical records for them to assess you. Good example would be the B7 category, which I'm part of, which ranges from me that would say physically able on a bowling green pretty well. Like I'm impaired in a way. Like I'm not a spry chicken or anything anymore, but it goes all the way down to wheelchair users within that one category, and that can it can range from different things. A lot of it comes down to how much balance or movement you've actually got versus how much strength you got. It's all these qualifiers. Like a really good example for that would be my pairs partner in Birmingham, Damo from the Gold Coast. He was also classified as a B7, sitting in a chair. But within our squad, we also have got a bowler who is a B6, and both of them virtually have the same impairment. They've both lost a leg above the knee. But depending on how the amputation all that worked, one of the guys can still use a prosthetic and bowls upright, but because he bowls upright, he's less stable, so therefore he gets downgraded.
Yep.
Where Damo sits in a chair, he technically gains balance with the use of the chair, so he kind of bumps up a grade. So there's a lot of those little things that, if you're looking at if you're looking from the sideline, sometimes, why are you that? Why are you that? And even amongst the athletes, if you're new to it, you kind of, why are you this? Why are you that? But I think most times the assessors get it right. Yeah, there's a few, inconsistencies there. It's never going to be 100% perfect, but I think most people find the correct, grading for themselves.
And most disabilities are individual as well, so it sort of does make it hard when it comes to grading. Mate, being part of the Jackaroos squad over the last few years, or almost 7 or 8 years, what changes have you seen go through that squad?
Well, first of all, I've been through 2 head coaches. So we had when I first started, we had the great Steve Glasson, legend of Australian bowls. What he hasn't done on the green as a player is not worth talking about. And then he, segued into coaching, won a game, and became one of the most successful Australian coaches to go along with it. Mm-hmm. At the advent of COVID, he decided that he wanted to take a step back and pursue other interests. He'd given 10, 12 years to the national team as a coach at that point. So we got the new head coach, Gary Willis, jumped into that role with Karen Murphy now as an assistant coach, another ex-player. So I've seen a couple of really good people in that role, but there's also been growth in the squad. You see players go in and out. Like we've had the great Wayne Rudiger was in the squad when I started. He's since announced his retirement this year, so it was a bit sad to lose the South Aussie out of the squad. But I suppose the biggest thing is probably seeing a lot of the young and emerging bowlers getting around, like the likes of Nathan Black, Tyson Wilson, those guys getting opportunities in the satellite squads and that to prove their worth in South Australia, which is really good. And I suppose the biggest thing now is that we're tied up the AIS in Canberra now.
Yep.
It's probably got a lot more professional than it was even when I started. So the sport itself has really grown in the high performance space, and all that's probably back to getting results and being a fairly dominant country in that sport.
I noticed, obviously, through the advertisement of Bowls Australia and some of the local affiliations through the state bodies, that the para and the able-bodied athletes, especially for lawn bowls, were very much integrated through Birmingham. Is that correct?
Yep. So we all played at the same venue on the same greens and at the same time. So, both disciplines were going, at the same time. Even from the Jackaroo squad point of view, when we toured over in Birmingham in the lead up to the Com Games, and once we were in the Com Games, we were treated as one big team. There was no differentiation between, you're the Opens and you're the Powers and you're the VIs or whatever it is. It was just one big happy group over there. So from that space, it was good. And bowls is probably one of those sports you really can do that. A lot of us guys in the para space play able-bodied bowls on a day-to-day basis. That's our bread and butter. We play club pennants against able-bodied players. We play a lot of state events against able-bodied players, and some players such as James Reynolds, who's part of the Australian squad now, actually represented ACT in the Open Sides Championship. So, bowls is one of those sports where anyone can play it just about in terms of that. In that respect, it's a good leveler in that respect as well, and it's a good showcase to have both, the physical disabled VIs and just the opens all going at the same time to showcase that we can all play at that level.
I suppose being with some of those big names of the sport, I suppose, really does help your game along, being side by side and practicing with them and conversing and really picking their brain a little bit on certain things that you need to improve on, and they might be able to help you with, and vice versa.
Yeah, there's, as you said, there's a lot of talent in that squad, and that was another thing about the Jackaroo setup was a lot of those players are more than willing to impart their knowledge, and some of the great players that you think of in terms of Australian representatives, just Aaron Sheriff in the past, and now he's back in the squad. Like Omar, things he's done on the world scene in bowls is really good. Aaron Wilson's a bit of a character, disco, but the way that he applies himself on the green, the way he goes about his craft is, he's a freak. You just can't quantify what he does, but it works for him. And then you got people like Barry Lester that's up in the Gold Coast, who are probably the most professional person that I see, that just leaves no stone unturned in the way he prepares for things. So there's a lot of things you can cherry pick from everyone. They've all got their strong points, which makes why they're there.
Absolutely. Well. All right, mate. We better move on to Birmingham. You had a pretty successful campaign. Tell the listeners what how you got to that point. Obviously, practicing here in Australia, right through to your gold medal match.
All right, I'll try not to bore them too much, but so the journey probably started back in 2019. We had a first initial camp over in the UK that I was fortunate enough to go on. That was a real eye opener for me to go overseas and play in the Northern Hemisphere, which is the conditions are completely different to that of Australia. But then obviously COVID got in between that, and we probably didn't really get back into serious selection / camps and things like that, probably mid 2001. So as we're coming out of the COVID bubble and interstate borders and that opened up, we were a little bit free. I think we had our first trial. We had a split trial where some, due to border restrictions, I went to Tassie for a trial with some of the Queenslanders and WA players, and the Victorian New South Wales players ended up being on the border somewhere. And then, so I think that was November 2001. Then from there, we had another trial January, February up on the Gold Coast, where they specifically prepared a green to replicate UK conditions, which is really unique. And we spent a week on those greens, getting familiar with the UK style of bowls, using UK equipment, modifying actions, things like that, to be able to perform on the overseas conditions, which was a real bit of a interesting headspace to be in, because you'd finish there, then you have to go back and play pennants in Adelaide, which is
running about 7 seconds quicker.
And then we had a tour in May of last year, which was the last selection trial before the Com Games, where the squad basically got cut in half from that point. So we had one trial, a 2-week tour over there to prove our worth, and then got selected off the basis of that. And then we had what they call the Trans-Tasman. So we played New Zealand back at the same club in Queensland, I think it's Mount Tamborine, that had the greens prepared for UK conditions, and glad to say that we whitewashed the New Zealand team. So sent a few Kiwis home unhappy, which was good. Mm-hmm. And then 3-4 weeks later, it was basically off to the UK, where we were in camp for 2.5 weeks before the Com Games, getting ready, and then another week and a half in competition. So I think I spent a grand total of 2 months off work in the calendar year last year. So I'm very grateful to the guys and girls that Finders Wine for letting me take the time off.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, COVID was obviously a big thing, but once you sort of got on the greens over there in the UK, you guys hit your straps pretty quickly and put yourselves in a pretty good position in the end.
Yeah, our pool games were pretty good. We had an early loss to England in the pools and a draw against South Africa, but our form was going really well. But the game that probably highlighted that we really had a really good chance is we played Scotland. So the team we ended up playing the gold medal match. We played every team in the pool once, a bit like a round robin.
Yep.
And we beat them in the pool match to make sure that we got into the finals. So that really gave us a lot of confidence going into the finals. And we got drawn England in the semi. So we're playing against England in front of a pretty big crowd and pretty parochial crowd. And, not to say that we played our final in that game, but we played really well. We were very conscious of trying to take the crowd out of the game and keeping them quiet early. And glad to say that we finished that game with an end to go. So we got to really celebrate to get into, win a medal of any colour is good, but to play off for gold is something special. But yeah, and then got to the gold medal match and played it in front of a bigger crowd with bigger stands, which I've never experienced before. But the whole atmosphere was brilliant. And unfortunately, the Scots were too good for us on the day, but very happy to walk away with a silver medal out of it.
Mate, you've come a long way since Port Pirie, and you've done very well and represented obviously not only South Australia as a para athlete, but also South Australia in general, but and the sport of lawn bowls. But mate, congratulations on a fantastic Birmingham Commonwealth Games, and mate, we will see you on the green pretty soon.
Yeah, greatly appreciated, and also just helping educate myself and our listeners out there.
No problems. Like I said, if you know anyone that's got a bit of an ailment or disability or anything like that, bowls is a really good sport to get involved in. If you want to, just at a bare minimum, is a very social aspect. So if someone's lacking that exposure to a bit of socialism, being social and a club environment, it's actually one of those sports you can really get in at the ground level, regardless of your physical ability. So I'd urge all the listeners, if you know someone that might fall into that category, push them towards the bowls club because they're very inclusive at that rate, and get out and do things. It's really
let's not underestimate the vital part of mental health in terms of mixing, doing things, and that that's more important than winning or losing in the end. And I think that gets a little bit forgotten at all levels. Not to derail the conversation too much longer, like this whole my condition, which did have some mental health issues myself when I got diagnosed, it did pull me through that a little bit, that I still had that sporting outlet to go to that I was still reasonably good at. I could have quite easily given up on a few things, and you're stuffed, your body's going to do this and that, and the future's not bright, but the old silver cloud to silver lining to a dark cloud, so to speak, quite literally now with a silver medal. But I'm the same. I can't underestimate the power of just that mental well-being, especially when you're going through some life-changing things, so to speak. Very much so.
And clubs whatever your chosen sport is, are great for that.
Absolutely. Mate, as you mentioned, look on bowls.com.au for your local club if you want to get involved, not only from a disabled point of view, but if you're an able body that just wants a bit of a game of barefoot bowls, or join into some competition. There's a club near you, and mate, we look forward to seeing you out on the green, and hopefully another chance at a medal at the next Commonwealth Games, mate.
Well, 4 years to work on that one, so fingers crossed.
Mate, we'll track and keep an eye on your progress, and hopefully get you back on the show again, mate.
No worries. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, mate.
Greatly appreciated.